you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Eda Szybicki. Albanian voters are awaiting results in the country's parliamentary elections with bated breath. And this time, this is actually more than mere rhetoric, as exit polls across the country were unusually withheld after the polling stations closed late on Sunday. With the country's long-standing Social Democrat leader Edi Rama facing off against his rival Sali Berisha, the outcome of the vote may well determine how Albania goes about realizing its great ambition of joining the European Union by the end of the decade. Joining us now is Vejvoda, permanent fellow at the Institute of Human Sciences in Vienna. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with the question everyone seems to be asking. What happened to the polls? Usually everyone is actually rushing to release some information to get people online looking at who won, who lost. This time around, unusually, pretty much all the news organizations said we're not releasing any polls.
Indeed, that is correct. But as I've been waiting to do the interview with you, I've checked the latest news from Albania, and actually the Central Electoral Commission of Albania has come out with the first results, which shows that the predictions that incumbent ruling party, Socialist Party of Prime Minister Edi Rama, has now in the lead with about 53% of the vote, and the main contestant opposition Democratic Party is at around 33. You are right to point out this fact that over the night everyone was hesitant to come out except one polling firm and one outlet.
That was the exception, right?
That was the exception. Some have indicated that some of the stations that were closer, if one can put it that way, to the opposition party were hesitant to show that the result would be in favor of the incumbent Socialist Party. But nonetheless, as I said, in the past hour, the Central Electoral Commission has come out with the lead, convincing lead, that would give, again, Prime Minister Edi Rama a full majority in the parliament.
But these are preliminary results, right? These are latest breaking news at the time this is happening, right? But still, all votes have to be counted. This is consistent with this one single poll that was released. The figures were actually quite similar there. So unless something unusual happens, do you think that we're in for yet another term for Mr. Edi Rama? And what could it mean for the country also?
Indeed, the Central Electoral Commission is on about 25% of the counted votes. Yes, we're looking at a fourth term for Prime Minister Edi Rama, which is quite astonishing in any country. A very convincing victory. One must point out that the turnout was low, around the 42 to 45% mark, which is due to a lot of migration, outward migration from Albania, and thus lesser number of voters involved. But
the diaspora was actually able to vote, right? According to some early statistics, it's more than 1 million people living abroad, yet about 240,000, if I remember correctly, have registered, and out of these, 190,000 have voted. What does it tell us about the way the diaspora approaches Albanian politics? Does the majority simply not care?
Well, indeed, many things to say. Albania, just to remind our viewers, is a country now of about 2.8 million people. Lower fertility rates, as in many parts of Europe and of this region, and as I said, outward migration. This is the first time that the diaspora was allowed to vote. Indeed, a combination of the things you said, disinterest, other worries in the turbulent world that we're living in, and about 200,000, as you said, used this opportunity. We'll see how the votes have fallen in the diaspora, but clearly they are a minority among the voters who cast their votes yesterday.
But this could also mean that we'll have to wait for full results, right? A bit longer than usual, because they're testing this new system.
Well, indeed, for official full results, as in any country, we have to wait longer. But I think the trend is very clear, and various outlets are now declaring that the incumbent prime minister has won. We haven't yet had official statements from either party leader, but I think that will probably happen by midday today.
Do you think that we might have allegations of voter fraud? This apparently is something that has been happening in Albania for quite some time now. And indeed, the authorities are taking it seriously. When you vote in Albania, you have this indelible ink print on your fingertip. Now, this is something we mostly see in the Middle East, in nascent democracies. In Europe, it's hardly ever done. But the authorities are convinced that they have to show that there is transparency, that nobody votes more than once.
Yes, rules are very stringent. I was following the electoral day. There were very minor incidents during the day, and in Albania, the elections over these past four times have been accepted by both sides, winning and losing, and thus I would say they have a relatively free and fair election. The media situation in Albania is better than in some other countries in the region, which is, I think, to be noted, and thus the arena for public debate and contesting each other's views is, I think, something that is a contributing factor to the fairness of the election.
Well, let's talk about the views represented by the two parties. This election was not similar to what we've seen in Europe recently, in countries like Romania or Slovakia. This wasn't really about foreign policy, more about domestic issues. Would you agree?
Well, I would say a combination. Prime Minister Rama ran on a ticket promising that Albania as an EU candidate country would achieve this goal by 2030, fulfilling the obligations for EU membership by 2028. And of course, then the process goes through ratification. So that was his main point. The opposition leader, Mr. Sali Berisha, an 80-year-old seasoned politician who, has to be noted, is under United States sanctions for corruption, who was president of Albania, prime minister of Albania in the early 2000s, ran on a ticket that he is close to the new American president, Donald Trump. His electoral advisors were people related to the Trump team. And so I would say in this case, if I can simplify utmostly, Europe won over the Trumpian promise in Albania. But of course, as in any other country, the underlying problems of inflation, prices, of a disillusionment with party politics, I think is also a contributing factor to the low turnout, as I mentioned, which is around the 42-45% mark.
So you said Sali Berisha's campaign had Trumpian overtones and indeed the involvement of some former Trump advisors. But does he also have views which have appeared in certain elections across Europe recently? Like, for example, he is not one of those pro-Russian candidates or anti-Ukrainian candidates, is he?
Yeah, you are right to point that out. Albania is probably one of the most pro-American and pro-European countries in this region. There is very little, if any, support for Russia. So in that sense, it's different, you are right to point out, from Romania or Slovakia or some other countries. And so that was not an issue. Albania is very supportive of Ukraine in this situation of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. And I think that there is a belief in those who voted for the Socialist Party of Edi Rama, which has been in power now for 12 years, that it is able to pursue and continue this road to EU candidacy. Let me just add that there are two front-runner countries in the region to become first new members of the European Union, and that's neighboring Montenegro and Albania. And of course, it's about also the credibility of the European Union to be able to enlarge, noting, of course, that Ukraine and Moldova are the two other countries that are important in this case.
And that's, of course, the crucial issue. Many countries in the region have been waiting for far too long. Something that could be explored perhaps at another time, because right now we have to park our conversation here. Ivan Vejvoda was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you.
And I'm Jan Szerwiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news, updates and commentary.